Howdy out there, folks. Today I'm going to be talking about Stranger Than Paradise, a Jim Jarmusch film from 1984. I believe it was his first, commercially successful feature film. I think he had one prior. But in any case, this movie came out, and really was yet another example of the sort of embryonic, nascent, independent cinema wave that started with people like Jarmusch and Spike Lee, and gathered steam with Soderbergh and folks like Quentin Tarantino in the early 90s. But it's absolutely a really fascinating example of low-budget filmmaking that in some minds is an exercise of style over substance, and I think that's a fair criticism. But to be honest, I think that it's like many of Jarmusch's films, it's not really what's going on, it's what's not going on that ends up capturing your attention. It's a very subtle film with bone-dry humor, as per usual with Jarmusch, and it's something that I think really just you need to allow it to sort of wash over you and to appreciate some of the things that he did with the incredibly low budget and very little resources. I think the film works as an experiment, and even as a film itself. It's just you cannot go in watching this movie expecting a lot to happen. Very little happens. It's almost like a sort of a Zen depiction of slackerism, hipsterism, circa the early 80s in New York, and then of course a road movie on top of that, but really in many ways an anti-road movie, because road movies tend to have some semblance of action associated with them. This film does not. It's very, very subtle, to the point of it's a little boring. I don't think there's any getting around it, but it's funny that you watch it and you let it sort of wash over you, and then you begin to appreciate the stillness of the film and what he's trying to do with the movie and the actors. I think that the one thing that saves it is A, beautiful cinematography, B, fantastic composition, and C, terrific acting by the three leads, despite the fact that they don't say much and don't appear to have a whole lot of interesting things to say. In fact, I mean, I think that that's perhaps also an observation by him as well, is that bohemia, hipsterism, in many ways is a lot of posing and looking cool without necessarily having much in the way of interesting observations to sort of utter. And that's fair, because these are young people. They haven't quite really lived life. They're just getting out and experiencing adulthood, and they're developing new skills and experiences, and I think this movie reflects that. So I definitely recommend the film, but I just would preface that recommendation with the warning that it's a slow movie. It's a very slow burn, and there's not anything revelatory about it. I think it's just a really nice, subtle piece of filmmaking by Jarmusch, who I actually do like as a filmmaker. He's made some very interesting movies. I have Dead Man on my shelf, which I will review later. I think that's one of the most interesting westerns I've seen, and I really liked his recent film that I believe is still streaming on Amazon, called Patterson, with Driver. He does a great Adam Driver does a great job in that part, making a film that is ostensibly about not much of anything be both beautiful, poignant, and I think very fascinating. So I don't have that one on my shelf, but again, Jarmusch, I think he's got some interesting entries in the sort of realm of cinema that I think are absolutely worth a watch. So on that note, please take care, everyone, until the next